hymn. This is the good old classic. Amazing Grace. Here we go. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to sing, and grace my fears relieve. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Many dangers, toil, and snares I had already passed. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, to freedom that will last.
Thank you, James. Good morning. Good morning. I am Reverend and it is my honor to be here with you this morning. So whether you're here with us in person or watching via streaming, we want you to know that we realize that our Unity family is priceless. Is there anyone here with us for the first time?
Yes.
Hi. Can you stand and tell us your name and where you're from, please?
Dee, Community James.
Ah, okay. I feel like I should know you, but welcome. Thank you. Well, feel free. We hope you're welcome to come back again and again and maybe consider being part of our family. Okay, so there is an old-fashioned Unity prayer service every Sunday from 9 to 9:30 in the Temple Library. This group is facilitated by Reverend Denise, so it's a great way to jumpstart your week, to feel connected to God. Moving on. The World Day of Prayer is coming up on September the 8th. So the service is going to start at 1 o'clock. It's going to be again in the Temple Library. Do we have the forms?
I don't have any forms, but just
Okay.
email me a prayer.
So if you have prayer requests for someone, family, community, whatever, you can email the list to Reverend Denise, or you can probably drop it off to her in the office. So that'll work. Are you going to have volunteers for that, or is us? Okay.
It hasn't been that big in the past.
Okay. Okay, so Reverend Denise is starting a new class called The Mysteries of John, Part 1, on Thursday, September 15th through October 6th.
Genesis.
What?
Genesis. Mysteries of John.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said. Mysteries of John, Part 1, from 1:30 to 3 p.m.
On Thursday.
on Thursdays.
You got it.
Okay, I was just double checking because I said that. Somebody said. Anyway. All right.
Don't listen to them.
I'm thinking you're sitting here telling me I'm wrong, okay? Our prayer chaplain today is Jan Carnes. So if you have prayer requests or you need prayer, she'll be happy to pray with you in this bar corner. Our board member today is Reverend Carol Ricketts. So if you have questions about the board, the church, or whatever, please feel free to talk to her about that. So would you please join me in saying our mission statement? It should be in your bulletin. Together? Our mission is to provide a prosperous and loving community by connecting to God through prayer and following the teachings of Christ.
Open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently I wait for thee. Ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my ears, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my mouth and let me bear that little word truth everywhere. Open my heart and let me prepare that when the children must through shame, silently now I wait for thee. Ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my heart, illumine me, Spirit divine.
Thank you, James. Please join me in affirming our opening statements in your bulletin together. I gratefully accept the gifts of grace. And let us pray. And we say, Father, Mother, God, living, loving presence. We are grateful for each and every person here. We are grateful that we have a wonderful place to worship. We send out our love, our blessings to those in our community and to the world who are in need, knowing that there is nothing stronger than the Christ presence within. We pray, Father, for the leaders of our country and the leaders of the world, hoping they'll hold the highest and best for the people in mind. We pray, Father, knowing again that we are your children, that we are the keys to the kingdom, and for that we are grateful. We ask this and all blessings in the name and through the power of the living Christ, and so it is.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
The daily word is courage. I bless myself and others with courage. Scary thoughts visit most people at one time or another. When they visit me, I remember I can always choose how to respond to fear. Secure in the truth that I am God's living expression, I choose to respond with courage. Courage is not foolish bravado, but rather the strength of my heart, born from wisdom and understanding, quickened by love. God's wisdom and understanding guide my response whenever I see danger or witness injustice. God's love reminds me to be as mindful of others, people's feelings and well-being as I am of my own. When I choose courage, my fear recedes. I act and speak with confidence. I remember how much the courageous example of others has inspired me over the years, and I pray to become a similarly encouraging presence to others. Be strong, and let your heart take courage, all you who know wait for the Lord. Psalms 31:24.
Gladly walk across the desert, no shoes upon my feet. Share with you the last bite you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
I love that song. Are you ready for my joke this morning?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any ex-Catholic people here? Or you might join us? All right, so there's this Catholic school, they're getting ready for lunch. And the nuns have got this buffet of food out on the table. And the one nun decides she's going to control how much they take, right? So she gets out the sign that says, God is watching, only take one. And she puts it by the apples. And so one of the kids sees the sign by the apples and he decides he's going to go create his own sign. And so he makes a sign that says, God's watching the apples, take all the cookies you want. It's okay. All right, we'll talk about grace today, so you can give me some grace for the joke. So we have a story, or I have a story to share that kind of tells us about God's grace. One night, a house caught on fire, and a young boy was forced to the roof. His father stood on the ground below with outstretched arms, calling to his son, "Jump! I'll catch you." He knew that his son had to jump in order to save his life. However, all the boy could see between himself and Dad was fire, smoke, and darkness. As you can imagine, the boy was filled with panic. His father yelled again, "Jump, son, I will catch you." But the boy protested, "Daddy, I can't see you." His father replied, "But I can see you, and that's all that matters." So if you're in a place where you don't know where to go or what to do next, know that God sees the way. A spiritual assistance is available to you all the time, and that is what grace is. Don't we all sometimes find ourselves in that challenge where we can't see the answer? We're in the smoke, we're in the fire, and there's God, that spirit within us that is telling us there is an answer. There is a safe place. There is a way that I can help you. But so often we're afraid because we can't see the answer. But that's what grace is all about. Grace is God's love in action. And I figured there's a couple things we got to do in order to get to that place where we can see that God's grace is always there for us. So the next time that you find yourself worried about something, the next time you see yourself afraid of something, I would really just like you to say to yourself, God's got this. Few little words that can change the whole energy of the whole experience. God's got this. Just like the father in the story. He could catch the little boy. He knew how to save him. But the little boy couldn't see the answer. God's got it. I don't care what your challenge is, whether it's a health issue, whether it's a financial issue, whether it's a family issue, whatever challenge you are facing, God's got it. God God's got this. And I believe in the miracle of grace. The miracle of grace. That's when doors open that you couldn't get open before. That's when a healing happens in your body. That's when opportunity comes that you're all excited about. That's when you get that aha answer to something that you needed for a really long time. We tell ourselves, God's got it, and I believe in grace. God's grace. Now I know in the Old Testament we had this theory of cause and effect. That God has the 10 Commandments that was given to Moses. If you follow these 10 laws, you will be blessed, and if you don't, you will be cursed, right? And unity kind of takes that same kind of concept with the ideas that you hold in mind, right? That if you hold positive ideas in mind, you will create positive experiences. If you hold negative ideas in mind, then you create more negativity. But Jesus was here to teach us about the law of grace, which transcends any kind of law of cause and effect. Because when you're living in God's grace, you're living in a consciousness of love. A consciousness of love. Therefore, you would be experiencing all the qualities, all the greatness, all the goodness of God. And I'm not saying you won't have challenges, because we all will still have challenges. But you will move through them with the grace and ease of God. You will know who is in charge. You will know and keep your faith in God. So that's the third part to this equation, is our persistence. How often do we give up because we don't see what we want coming right away? We become a society that really wants things in an instant. We have microwaves that can heat up food very quickly. We have fast food restaurants. We have x-rays and all kinds of things that we can see things instantly. You have a phone where you have a wealth of information right in your hands. But the spiritual journey does not happen that way. We have to use persistence. We have to use courage. We have to use strength to believe that God's got this no matter what it looks like in life. To stand in the truth that grace is with us 24/7. That all we have to do is love ourselves enough to connect to it. So there's another key. Love. James was talking about it earlier in his song. Love will build that bridge to grace. Can you love yourself enough to know that you are always loved by God? There is nothing you could do in this lifetime or any other lifetime to decrease the amount of love that God has for you. Nothing. There is nothing. I don't care what you've done. God loves you with open arms tremendously. But how often do we like to beat ourselves up? I know I do it. Beat myself up for this and that. And what do I do with my chance of connecting to that power of grace? When I feel like I'm less than, when I feel like I've done something wrong, when I feel like I'm not lovable, where does the grace go? It seems like it disappears because we're not connecting to it. Because we're not connecting to God. We're not showing our persistence that we are loved. We're not showing our power that we are the light like we talked about last Sunday. Where does all go when we start feeling small? Where does all that light go when we beat ourselves up? Where does that light go when we believe that the world appearance has all the power, the light diminishes. And therefore we don't see that grace that we're so wanting to experience. So we have a story about persistence in the Bible. It's a story about a man called Naaman. And he's a soldier, he's a captain in an army. And he's a very valiant, very strong person. But lo and behold, he gets leprosy. Now, metaphysically, we get leprosy when we beat ourselves up. When you choose to believe you're something less than a child of God. When you choose to hang on to pain and suffering, it just eats up your skin in the story. And we do that all the time. We hang on to stuff for years. Things that happened 20 years ago when we were in school. We hang on to that pain and we carry it around with us till it starts eating our skin like leprosy. Well, lo and behold, this man has gotten tired of having leprosy, and his army goes and takes over an area and brings back an Israelite maiden. And anytime we talk about Israel in the Bible, we're talking about those higher spiritual thoughts that know the truth. So he's attracted this higher spiritual thought into his mind. And this thought tells him that there is a prophet who can heal people. There's a prophet, and he can heal you. And so he starts thinking about that. And he tells the king, he says, you know what, in Israel there's a prophet that can heal me, and I want to see him. And so the king writes a letter to the king of Israel, telling he's got this man with leprosy, and he wants to be healed. And the king of Israel thinks he's messing around with him. What power do I have to heal this man? Why are you expecting me to do this? I cannot do this. But once again, he's looking to the outer world here for an answer. But lo and behold, Elijah, who is a prophet, who represents the I am, that spiritual part of you, hears about it. And he knows he can help heal Naaman. So, Naaman goes over to Elijah's house, and he's standing in his front door. And he's expecting Elijah to come out with his hands and say a great prayer and heal him. But that's not what happens. Elijah sends him a message. He's not happy about this. Just to show you, we're not always happy about how our healing is supposed to happen, right? We get all upset. So anyway, he gets upset that Elijah's not coming out. Elijah tells him to go to the river Jordan and wash 7 times. Now, he's also upset about this because the river Jordan is a dirty river. He doesn't want to go there. He's an important person. Why can't Elijah come out and heal him? So he, first of all, is not going to do it. He's on his way back home. But he has this maiden from Israel, that higher spiritual thought that tells him, well, if he had told you to do a great thing, wouldn't you have done it? Why not go to the river and wash 7 times? Why not give it a shot? And so Naaman finally decides to do that. He goes to the river Jordan. And he gets in the river, and he washes in it 1 time, and he looks at his arms, and nothing's different. He still looks the same as he did before. He goes down and washes the 2nd time. Nothing's different. 3rd time, 4th time, 5th time, 6th time, he's washing and nothing looks different. You have to hold your persistence. You have to stand in your truth, and you have to believe in God's grace. The message was to wash 7 times. 7 is a very spiritual number in the Bible, number of completion. The 7th time he went and his skin was as smooth as a child's skin. But he had to do the work. He had to believe in the guidance that he was given, even though he didn't like it. Well, sometimes we don't like the guidance we're given, right? Sometimes we think God is crazy. You want me to go wash in the Jordan 7 times? Oh, I'm not doing that. But look what happened. He followed the guidance. He kept that persistence. He didn't give up after the first time he washed. He didn't give up after the second, third, or fourth time. He did all 7 times. So we have to stand in our truth no matter what the world of appearance, no matter what your pain, no matter what your challenge is, what it's looking like. You have to stand and be in that persistent place where you know God is the answer and God is grace and God has the perfect answer. God has it. Nothing in the outer world has it. God has it. So isn't that wonderful? That no matter what you're experiencing out there in the world, that you have the power to change it. You have the power to say, God's got this. Can you say it with me? God's got this. God's got this. I don't care what it looks like, how bad it seems, God's got it. And God's grace will heal it. God's grace will transform it. God's grace will do whatever your heart's desire is. But we've got to love ourselves in order to touch that grace. To touch that grace, I have to learn to love myself. Now that is not an easy task, because none of us grew up that way, I don't think. I'm not the only one whose parents told you how you had to be, and you weren't that way, and then you were a bad person, and they weren't going to support you in what you wanted to do. No, that is not the truth of you. You're a divine child of God. You are that being of light that we talked about last week. You have that power. You have that grace right within you, 24/7. So let's start loving ourselves. When I mess up, I'm going to say, okay, God's got this. We'll do better next time. Because I'm only going to do as good as I know. And yes, I learn from my mistakes. I learn from my past. So I need to love those challenges. Because every one of those challenges has gotten me to where I am today. Every one of those challenges has taught me something critical I needed to know in order to move forward in life. So why not love all the challenges that we've been through? Why not love all the people who have aggravated us and caused us to come up higher to see the truth? Why not love all those experiences that make us dig deeper into our own soul to know God? For without them, we would not do the work. Right? If life was simple, everything was going my way, would I be talking to God? Probably not. Would I be looking to experience God's grace? Probably not. So you have to have that passion, that deep desire to know God, to experience that grace, to have all that beautiful gift of God that's just waiting for us. As Jesus says, here I am knocking at the door. All you have to do is open it and I will come in. Isn't that awesome? He's there. That spirit, that energy, that life, that vitality within you is there 24/7 just waiting for us to open the door. But we can't open that door if we're feeling ashamed. We can't open that door if we're feeling guilty, if we're feeling fearful, if we're feeling it negative. It's really hard to open that door because we don't believe we deserve it. Well, I'm telling you today that you deserve every good gift of God, that you deserve every gift of grace, that you deserve to have a life of fulfillment and joy and beauty and healing and transformation. Don't you? Or do you want to stay in your same old rut? You can stay there if you want. God will let you stay. But why not choose the high road? Why not get excited that this power of grace is there? You don't have to earn it. You don't have to do anything to get it, except know that you are the light, to know that you are loved, to know that you have that divinity within you, just like Jesus did. And you saw the things that he did. He healed people. He multiplied fishes and loaves. He overcame death. And you have that same power, that exact same power. And it's called grace, the activity of God in your life. Now, I can tell you all kinds of stories about people who have done this and been healed. There's a perfect story. It's in the book Sermon on the Molehill. Get that right? A story about a woman who was told she had cancer. It was spreading all over. She had 6 months to live. We hear these stories all the time. And she told the doctor, no, God's got this. I live in God's grace. And he says, oh, maybe she didn't hear me right. So he says it again. And she says the same thing. No, God's got this. I live in God's grace. And she left. And he saw her 7 years later, because she came back, she had a cold or something. And he was absolutely shocked that she was alive. And so naturally, he had her test to see if the cancer was still there. And there was no cancer. So it's a very powerful thing to believe and to know and to be persistent in knowing that God's got this. I choose to live in God's grace. And then you can see what that does in your world. You can see all the ways that God shows up. So I have one more example. Mitch and I went out with some friends yesterday. We went to Dylan's at Lake Pleasant. And I've been using this. God's got this. I live in grace. I choose to see the miracles. So yesterday, you know, it was a little stormy outside. Stormy looking. But I said, no worries. God's got this. So I got to Mitch's house. We went to Lake Pleasant. We never got rained on. We got there, and the band that we thought we were going to hear was not the band. It was an AC/DC band, which I can't stand listening to, neither did anybody else that was there. So old Denise would have said, oh my God, this is going to be a disastrous evening. We got this band that sounds like noise playing. Had that band not been there, we wouldn't have made the next steps. So we decided to go outside, go down the wharf, and we actually sat in a pontoon boat that had the door open. And we got to watch the most lovely sunset I have seen in a long time. We had this wonderful conversation. We ended up having the most perfect time because I went with God's got this. I choose grace. And that's exactly what happened. We left the building. We sat out on the lake. Beautiful sunset. Could not have been more perfect. God's grace in action. It could have turned out totally different. But that's not where I went. So that's just a little example. We can do even greater things. We can change this world around by standing persistently in the truth that we are loved beyond measure, that you are loved. You've always been loved. So why not not be that love and share that love with the rest of the world? I mean, I've never seen a world that is so much like this as it is right now. People won't even listen to each other. So why not say, God's got this, right? God's got this. And I choose to believe in grace. And lo and behold, we will lift it up, and somehow the situation will change. I don't need to know how. That's not my job. But God knows, just like in the story. The father knew how to save the boy, but the boy couldn't see it. We're all in that same boat. The world is seeming a little crazy. We don't know how to fix it, but we can say, God's got this, and I choose to live in grace. I choose to see the miracles. So I have a picture in my bathroom that I bought a long time ago. It says, believe every moment is a miracle. Now, I used to look at that all the time when I first bought it, but until recently, I had not paid any attention to it. So that's my new affirmation going forward this month, is I believe that every moment is a miracle, and it truly is. Every moment, that energy, that power, that presence of God is within you, loving you, healing you, protecting you, showing you the way. If you'll just listen to it, if you'll just accept it, if you'll just be part of it. Yes, there is a miracle happening in every moment. We don't think about breathing, do you? Get up in the morning and think, oh, I got to turn on the lungs this morning. That's a miracle. The lungs work without us even thinking about it. I burned myself a couple weeks ago. I knew it would get healed, and it's healed. Same thing would be with any sickness or disease I have. I should know that it will get healed, just like a burn on my arm. It is no different. It is no different. The only difference is our belief in it. To say that God's got it, and I choose to believe in grace. I choose to believe in miracles. So let's say it together. God's got it.
God's got it.
I choose to believe in grace.
I choose to believe in grace.
I choose to believe in miracles.
I choose to believe in miracles.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I am loved.
And I am grace.
I am grace.
And that's the truth.
That's true.
And that's the truth. So let's take that into meditation. Let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath. And in this moment, let's just let go of whatever we're worried about. And just say, God's got it. God's got it. And all that beautiful love within you, all that light, the power and presence of God is right there within you. And God's got it. God knows the answer. God knows the way. All I have to do is listen. All I have to do is say, yes, I am a divine expression of God. I am love. I am light. I am created in the image and likeness of God. And in that light, that beautiful light of grace, there is no darkness. There is no pain. There is no suffering. There is only God. There's only love. So today we choose to stand in that to be persistent in that knowing that God's got this. And I choose to live in God's grace, a beautiful space of ease, a space of knowing, a space that is filled with joy and beauty, a space that knows no limit to what it can do. Today we choose grace. So let's take this new energy of knowing that God's got it and that we live in grace into the silence. So let's become aware of the surroundings and hear the music James is playing. And no matter what's going on in your life, please always remember that God's got it and that you choose to live in God's grace. And it is done. Amen.